I'm from Supermoon Station at NEARCON, and today we're going to ride a horse with Chad Ostrowski.
Hello,
Hi,
hello,
Chad.
hello.
How's NEARCON going?
It's going well. We got horses.
And Chad, let's start with a quick background. I'm
Sure.
really curious to learn about your crypto journey, how you joined the space, and how you started building your project.
I knew about Bitcoin since it came out, basically 2010, and was like mildly interested in cryptocurrencies from that. My interest in decentralized apps and the building on blockchain, building apps that included blockchain, kind of started with this silly thought experiment kind of thing. Do you remember an organization called Mars One?
Mars One?
Yes, Mars One. They wanted to send 4 people to Mars, and they were going to stay there permanently. And they had a little FAQ on their website that was like, what will the Martians do? And one of the things was like, they will be able to read their favorite internet sites, which will be downloaded from Earth every 24 hours. And I was like, that's not the internet, right? Like, the internet is many to many. It's two-way. Like, it's created by its users. Even to be able to click a heart button to say that you liked something, that wouldn't be possible with the way apps work today. And it made me wonder how we'll make an internet that actually works in any meaningful way whenever we are interplanetary. And maybe we don't need to worry about it for a while, but if we can solve those problems, surely there are all sorts of interesting use cases that would be enabled here on Earth today, even before we're interplanetary. So that was kind of the bug in the back of my head that I was thinking through. And like, how are we going to make apps work like this? And so it kind of gave me an aha moment for building on crypto, was learning about IPFS, the Interplanetary File System, and decentralized storage, because it felt like one of the big missing puzzle pieces for how this would work. And then you've got decentralized data that lives on Mars or on Earth, so they can create their own, when they take pictures, it doesn't need to be uploaded to a server on Earth. It just lives near them at the edge of the network. But then how do you do server-side computation? How do you do things when you need trust? Well, you would need blockchains for that, right? And today, blockchains aren't set up to be interplanetary, but they could be. So that was kind of why I got into it. I do think Near has the best developer experience. I think there were great choices made at the protocol level for how sharding works, where there's dynamic. I mean, today, sharding is still in its infancy.
Can you explain sharding to non-tech
yeah.
people? I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, so a big problem with Ethereum and other current blockchains is scale. Right? So when one thing gets popular, the whole network goes down. And the idea of shards is that you run the blockchain in separate shards. And with Near, the goal is to make it dynamically re-sharded, so that if CryptoKitties get super popular, then it goes in its own shard, and different computers can do all the computation for that and leave the rest of the network to operate on its own shard or on its own group of shards. So, and the way that it works in Near is that developers don't know where their code is going to run. That happens automatically when a certain app gets popular, which was a really good decision that other blockchains don't do as well. And there's other stuff with how it supports multiple languages. So you can build in Rust, you can build in JavaScript, you can build in anything that compiles to a system called WebAssembly, which is just going to make it much nicer to build on Near in the long term. And finally, the third thing that I think Near did really well is its account system. You have named accounts like chado.near.
We got supermooncamp.near.
Exactly, yeah. It's not OXF1A7B, whatever, 32 characters long. It's a human-readable name. And that has all sorts of other nice stuff built into it also, where you can use accounts in a much more familiar way, what you're used to with the rest of the internet, with Web 2, rather than being this very complicated, you have this public key and now everyone needs to, right? Ethereum does have named accounts now using Ethereum naming system, ENS, but it's kind of an add-on. It's sort of a workaround, whereas it's built into Near at the most fundamental level. So that's why I
that's
stay
really great.
in Near.
That's really great addition. Human readable addresses for sure helps our mass adoption. Because
Yes.
even like explaining to my friends like what this wallet address is so complicated. Like people
Yes.
cannot get it, and then they're extra worried if they spelled it correctly.
Yes.
If they copy paste, then there is no extra symbol added at the end, so
Exactly.
they cannot transfer money.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's a really cool part. Tell us a bit more about your project, about AHA Labs.
Sure. Yeah. My co-founder and I parted ways with Near Inc. at the end of last year. His name is Willem. And what I have wanted since really getting into the crypto space, the blockchain, decentralized app space, is basically there was a tool in Web 2 called Ruby on Rails. Still is, but it used to be very popular. That's where I got my start building apps with Ruby on Rails. And I want something that is as delightful to build with for decentralized apps. Meaning apps that aren't just on Near or a specific blockchain, but that integrate all of that decentralized storage and everything you would need to build an ambitious app. I want it to be easy to do that, to take advantage of the architectural patterns that we're all figuring out we need if we're going to really build Web3 apps. Web3 at this point is still kind of a hypothesis, but we know some of what we need to do. And let's make those things easy for people. That doesn't exist as far as I know today, so that's what I want to build. The piece we started with is today it's not easy to build with your own smart contracts. You write a smart contract and then you have some code in your front end app that needs to interact with that contract. And even that piece, interacting with your own contracts, is harder than it should be, like surprisingly difficult. And it should be just as easy to interact with your contract. It should be easier than it is to interact with your own contracts. And it should be just as easy to interact with your own as it is to interact with other people's smart contracts. That's kind of the dream of this open web, decentralized web, is that the data isn't captured by one specific app. Data is shared so that any app can remix or make use of data from anywhere. So it should be easy to build with other people's smart contracts. So that's the core of the piece that we built, is making it easy to interact with other people's smart contracts. So that's what RAIN, which is Near spelled backwards, by the way.
Yeah,
RAEN.
we saw it.
Yes. So that's what RAIN does today. Today, RAIN is a build tool for Near smart contracts. In the future, we want to grow it into an entire framework that helps people build ambitious, decentralized apps.
And right now it's on Near Network. Are you planning also to expand outside of Near Network and connect with other chains, other ecosystems?
Potentially. Like I said, you need, with a decentralized app, probably only a small piece of it even lives on the blockchain, right? There's a lot of stuff that people do that doesn't need globally mutable state. It doesn't need a blockchain, right? All of your photos don't need to live on a blockchain. They live on decentralized storage on your computer or on computers nearby. For some things, you need a blockchain. I think Near is the best blockchain when you need it. So in the near term, what I would like to see more, we would like to work more with IPFS, with indexing layers like the graph or subgraphs, if you've heard of those. Those are definitely, we need to be working with those projects more. With other blockchains, probably at some point. It's less of a priority for me, though.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And definitely interested to learn how you guys are going to be growing in the space.
Yeah.
And you started mentioning that Web3 right now is our hypothesis.
Yes.
I want to learn a bit more about your stand on decentralization, data privacy, transparency, and if we can ever achieve decentralization.
Okay. I have so many thoughts. I'm not sure where to start. So I guess I'll start with what interests me about it, other than the thought experiment of interplanetary apps. I also have a little side project. That's this life charting app. You can find it at entire.life. I haven't updated the code in years. I would like to rebuild it. But a guarantee that I would like to make to people is that their data will be around for their entire life, that it'll be around in 100 years. They'll still be able to make use of this app, and it'll be there. And they don't need to depend on my little company staying solvent, having a business model that lasts for 100 years, right? Like, I don't even know if Google will be around in 100 years, but they've got a much better chance than my little company. So how can you count on apps to actually be there over the long term? Like a notebook that will still be in a drawer somewhere in your house when you die, right? Like, I want apps that last that long. So that piece of, like, I guess that's something that I have wanted to solve, that's another piece of, like, the decentralized app puzzle that I am curious about, interested in, that I would like to build with, because I want to give people that guarantee. And I think we're pretty close to being able to give people those sorts of apps. Will we achieve decentralization? What does that even mean? I guess. I guess it's like, in the context of this conversation,
how do you define decentralization?
Yeah. I feel like decentralization is kind of a buzzword almost. It means a lot of things to a lot of different people. I guess I do like the idea of, if an app like Facebook that you use starts doing something that you don't like, you have the ability to move your data and your network graph elsewhere, to be able to say, I don't want to use your newsfeed algorithm anymore. I want to go to this app with a better newsfeed algorithm, but I want all of my data. I want all of the people I follow to still be there. So that's like, I think that's a workable definition of decentralization, is the ability to sort of eject from an app that you don't like, or even to have the choice of where your data lives. Do you self-host your data on your own computers? Do you go with an advertising-based business model and let someone else host all of your data, and they'll just serve you some ads to make it worth it for them, right? Like, you have the choice between those two, and then there could be paid models in between where you pay someone to host data. Giving consumers that kind of choice, to me, feel like that should be the goal. If that's what we mean by decentralization, then yes, I think we'll get there.
And when do you think we can get to that point, when you can just simply move your data from one, let's say, social media to another one?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there's a lot of research that needs to be done, not at the blockchain level necessarily, but in the larger decentralized app ecosystem, right? Like, with IPFS and with other tools for building, there's like a web native file system project that I heard of, that's fairly new. But that kind of research, those kinds of projects, I think we need more of that. We need more investment at those levels. It's tough because there's not as much money at those levels for, like, venture capitalists. The money is in the blockchain level, right? Like, if you invest in a new blockchain project, you're almost guaranteed returns of some kind or another. But with some of this more almost altruistic, like, we want a web where the users are in control over their own data.
And you invest in a startup and then all users moving their data somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, it seems like a good investment decision.
Right. So, like, the things that I want out of it that are almost more altruistic and whatnot, it's like, I don't know. I think maybe it's closer than I realize. But like, it's going to be a slow march of adoption at some point where the tech is there. You can build things in this way. And now we need a bunch of app developers to go actually build apps that work in this way. And I think that's also part of why I'm interested in building a framework that makes it easy to build apps in this way, and to say, hey, the tech is here. We can do this. We can build apps that give users, like, data sovereignty, that give them choices over where their data is stored. Here's how you build it. Here's how you do it. Here's the tool. Go run this command in your terminal and, like, start building an app. Start adding this functionality to your existing app, so that instead of using your servers, you can give users the options of hosting their own data or something along those lines. And that could be, I don't know, let's say 2 years away, 2 to 5.
I mean, that's pretty good. It's not that far away. And as you're saying, like, tech is there. I personally think tech is there, but society is not there. People's mind need to change.
Yeah, I think it needs to be 10 times better than what exists for people to want it, right? Like, most people don't care about decentralization, I would say.
They want good UX.
They want good UX, yeah. And maybe they care about... I think that in the context of, like, Facebook's news feed or Twitter's algorithm, just sort of... It doesn't give me the knobs that I want, the levers to control. Like, I only see outrage, right? Like, I open Twitter and it's a bunch of angry people all the time. I would like an algorithm that's like maybe a little less engaging, but like more thoughtful and gives me more interesting. Give me the things that are like a 6 on a scale of engagement instead of a 10 on the scale of engagement, something along those lines. So in that, like, maybe that's one thing that gets people interested in this space, is the ability to move to a different app without losing all of their data. Maybe. But yeah, I think we've got to make it 10 times better. And I think we need to start with telling developers, you can build things in this way. These are the benefits you can give people. Now go give people that 10x improvement over what they have in Web 2.
Absolutely. And like for me, it's actually very surprising that crypto communities keep using Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
When Twitter is like censoring every single thing that you want to cover, like all important issues. I've been banned on Twitter.
Really?
A few times. Yeah, I was trying to talk about democratization being a buzzword, and I got immediately banned on Twitter. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can't discuss democratization. I would move on.
I would love to see those tweets. I want to know what got you banned.
They were banned. So you won't be able to see them there. Instagram didn't ban me for them, so I'm keeping all my content there instead. But yeah, I hate on Twitter so much. I barely use it, but I have to use it. So it's like always, where is the next app that is coming from crypto community?
Yep.
That will not censor what I'm trying to say to people.
Yep.
No, I think it's, I really hope your forecast is correct. And in
I guess I'm saying it's possible to build these things in 2 to 5 years. Maybe in 1, right? Like, possible to build these apps. Mainstream movement from Web 2 to Web 3, I think that's longer. Like, I think it's going to be, in terms of... another way that I like to think about blockchain and just like programmable money, right? At the programmable money layer, you can think about anywhere you see rules around money will be eaten by blockchains and decentralized apps eventually, in the same way that in the early 90s, anywhere you saw the movement of information, it was eaten by the web. Eventually. It took kind of 30 years maybe to fully change the distribution model. And it didn't happen in as smooth of a way as anyone expected, right? Like, it was way more messy and way more sloppy than what anyone thought would happen. In 2022, it wasn't all great. There was a lot of bad stuff that came along with the changing the distribution model. So it's going to be, I think, give it 30 years for like full switch over, if you will. And probably with decentralized apps, that might also be true.
And it might also start changing. I remember an interview with Mark Andreessen, and he was actually saying that because he lives through times of .com bubble, and he was saying at the beginning, internet was also decentralized.
Yes.
And then it started evolving into a complete centralized structure.
Yes. Yep.
So I don't know. Do you think we might see actually a reverse in the blockchain space when we become, instead of being more decentralized, we're becoming more centralized and focused on convenience for people rather than data freedom?
I think a lot of decentralized apps today are actually very centralized.
Yeah, they are.
You're using DNS. You're using this naming system that is very centralized. A lot of decentralized apps are using APIs that are very centralized. Yeah. Maybe they're originating from a decentralized blockchain, like the data starts on the blockchain, but then it's all served via APIs from OpenSea or whatever, which are like centralized services that host these API systems. Same thing with Etherscan on Ethereum, right? It's like the API that all developers use to get data off of the blockchain. So I actually think we're moving a little bit. Currently, I think there are new tools being built that make things a little bit more decentralized in the Web3 space, which like loves to talk about decentralization, but ended up in the early days at least being surprisingly centralized given that ethos. So currently moving a little bit more decentralized. Will some kind of capture happen? I don't know. I don't know enough to predict that. Like I think a lot of people want to build tools that prevent capture by some like Google or Facebook of the decentralized web. Will it be possible? I don't know. I guess I'm like, I don't know enough to say.
Still have an open question here.
Yes.
Either we're moving towards decentralization or we are just abandoning everything we were trying to build and moving back to centralized, more convenient ways of using applications. Thank you so much, Chad, for riding a horse with me at NEARCON.
It's been wonderful. Yep.
Well, it's a great conversation.
Yes. All right.